What I'm about to share with you is by far the easiest and quickest way to get hired at a coffee shop in 2024. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. But at least believe everyone else that has used at least one of these tips that I'm about to share with you today once upon a time and has landed barista and supervisor positions at various coffee shops. In the past, I've shared a tip or two on this topic, but today we're doing a full deep dive into it because baby, you're getting hired at that coffee shop. Yes, you are. On average, recruiters, hiring managers look at your resume, look at your application for an average of 7 seconds. And I would go as far as to say that in a coffee shop, it's probably even less than that. Understand that there are waves of people applying for the same positions that you are applying for. So if you're standing in a crowd of 100 other people who have applied for the same position as you, what's gonna make you stand apart from the other 99 people that applied for the same position as you? I will tell you what, demonstrating the important job functions to the hiring manager before you are hired. Now, does that mean bringing your coffee machine to a local coffee shop and whipping up the hiring manager a cup of coffee that they didn't ask for? No, that's not what that means. Don't do that. This is where the strategic part comes in at. Now, I screenshotted this from the actual Starbucks careers website, and it reads, baristas are the face of Starbucks. Yes, they are. They are an important part of our customers' days and experts in handcrafting delicious, perfect beverages. Baristas personally connect and create moments that make a difference and work together to create a welcoming store environment. They bring our mission and values to life for our customers and each other while proudly wearing the green apron. That tells you right there exactly the type of person they are looking to fill their barista positions. As a former Starbucks barista, I can tell you how important it is and how ingrained in the company culture it is that they are wanting their baristas to make customer connections, to make the moment right, to establish regulars, establish rapport with customers. Hiring managers today are looking for candidates that are willing to put their best extroverted foot forward. Now, does that mean, my introverts, that there is no place for you inside of a coffee shop? Absolutely not. But if you're an introvert, you still have to be willing to go out of your way to talk with people and make those customer connections. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty on how you can stand apart. When I was 16 and applying for my first job, this is back when we still had paper applications, which it feels like yesterday, but it also feels like a different world because everything is online now. Everything is digitized. Now in 2024, almost every application is done online. And when you submit that application, there's no guarantee that a human is going to view it. You're gonna do one of two things, and I'm gonna let you decide what one of those two things is, depending on how interested you are in a specific coffee shop. Method number one is if you're interested in the position, but you're still looking at other places too, which is fine. Submit the application online, go through the process, get it done. Wait about 24 hours to follow up. I say 24 hours because it actually takes 24 hours for Starbucks and most other coffee shops as well for your application to pop up on our end. If you submit an application and try to follow up within the same hour, they have no record of your application or who you are. After 24 hours, you can pick up the phone and give the coffee shop a call, ask to speak to the hiring manager if they're there, call back if they're not, and just express your interest again and say that you're following up on your application and just kind of let the ball roll from there. This looks like, hi barista, I'm calling to follow up on my application. Is your hiring manager available at the moment? I would love to follow up and introduce myself over the phone. No. If you are hell-bent on a particular coffee shop or a particular position at a coffee shop, you're gonna do things a little bit different. What I just said still holds true and is a good way of following up on your application. But if you really wanna make an impression, you're gonna do it a little bit different. And by different, I mean, instead of following up on your application or introducing yourself to the hiring manager over the phone, you're gonna go in person. You will walk into the coffee shop in person first before you even put an application in. I would recommend going during a non-busy or non-peak hour because they're not gonna have time to talk with you if they're juggling 15 orders all at once. So try to not go at a peak hour. If it looks busy, don't go in, come back. There are, contrary to popular belief, there are lulls during the day at coffee shops. They're rare, but they're there. Go up to the counter, order a coffee, get yourself a little pastry, do whatever you gotta do to ensure that you're gonna have an interaction with some or a barista that's working currently. While you're there, whenever you feel it's right to do so, introduce yourself to the barista. Ask them questions like, hey, are you guys hiring at the moment? Or what do you like the most about working here? Or does this location get super busy? Just make small talk. Remember, these are the people that you would potentially be working with, so build rapport with them. It's a lot easier to land a job at a coffee shop if the people already working behind the counter are advocating for you, or at least know you. If you like what they're saying and they sound like they're looking for people to hire, ask to speak to the hiring manager while you're there. If the hiring manager is there and you end up meeting them, introduce yourself, first and last name, that is very important, and just express interest again. That looks like, hey, I'm Stefania Marzelia, it's nice to meet you. I'm really interested in working at this cafe and I would love to learn a little more information about the type of barista you're looking for. You could even say in that quick interaction that you have prior coffee or barista experience if that's the case. I know this seems super basic, but you're putting your name on their radar. When you've introduced yourself and they know your first and last name, they're gonna look out for your application. After you've done that, done your small talk, your warm introduction, that's when you go home and submit the application online officially. Do it that night or the next morning. Do not wait too long to submit your application after you've met the hiring manager and the baristas, because it's gonna look like on the other end that you're not as interested as you claimed you were. For those of you who don't know, I worked at 3 different separate Starbucks cafes. The first one being a licensed store inside of Target, and then I made the transition in 2017 to a corporate standalone Starbucks. The licensed to corporate pipeline was interesting. Different. My manager at this Starbucks cafe specifically did not hire anyone under the age of 18. The second youngest person at that cafe at the time was 22. So there was a bit of an age gap between me and everyone else. However, I wasn't about to let that stop me. I had my eye on the prize. I had my eye on the partner numbers. I was like, my age isn't about to get in the way. About a month after I started at my second cafe, my new corporate store, I was informed by my manager that the only reason that I got hired was because I did this. I did what I just said before this, which was going in pre-application and introducing myself. I went home, I put in the application, I did everything I just told you guys to do. But I did something a little extra on top of that. After I put in my application, I went back in person and followed up on my application in person. During that post-application follow-up, I reaffirmed with the hiring manager, number 1, who I was, number 2, my interest, and number 3, that I had prior barista experience. I showed initiative and I showed that I was eager to get behind the counter, and I probably showed that I was a lot more eager than the other applicants trying to get that position as well. When I went in to follow up in person without even viewing my application yet, she set up time for us to have an interview. From start to finish, the entire process took me 48 hours in total to land an interview because of my persistence and because of my in-person presence. Even though I was still in high school and under 18 years old and not exactly their ideal candidate, I showed that I can be conversational, hospitable, personable. Those are all things that every hiring manager is gonna wanna see in their baristas. Put a face to your name, make yourself memorable, shake hands with the hiring manager, and most importantly, show up. Okay, so you've aced the first 2 steps. You went in person and introduced yourself. You shook hands. The hiring manager knows your first and your last name. Perfect. You submitted an application. You went in person and followed up on your application in person, reaffirming who you are and your interest. Awesome. I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that you're probably gonna have an interview. So let's get into the meat and potatoes, the most crucial part of this process. The interview. On the day of your interview, you are going to want to show up no later than 15 minutes before your interview. So if your interview is scheduled for 2 p.m., you're gonna show up no later than 1:45 p.m. because if you're on time, then you're late. And if you're 15 minutes early, then you're on time. You're gonna walk in, you're gonna walk up to the counter, and you're gonna let the baristas know that you're there and you're present and you're there for your interview. Usually what happens with really any coffee shop, but Starbucks specifically, is that when you arrive for your interview, you're gonna get yourself a little free beverage because that's kind of the policy, is they give free beverages to the people that they're interviewing. So the barista is going to most likely ask you what you'd like to drink. Pick what you'd like to drink. Say thank you and let the barista know that you'll be sitting at this table in the cafe and you look forward to speaking to the hiring manager. Go sit down, enjoy your cup of coffee, enjoy your matcha, whatever you ordered, and at some point in those 15 minutes that you show up early, your hiring manager will come out from the back, most likely, and sit down with you and begin the interview. It reflects very well on candidates if the hiring manager ends up conducting the interview a little bit earlier than they expected to. Because what does that show? It shows reliability, it shows that you're punctual, and it shows that, again, you are showing up. Once the hiring manager comes out, it's go time. I want you to study your resume. And if you don't have a resume yet, no problem, but at least reflect on some of the work or applicable experience that you have so far and figure out a cohesive way to relate that to the job that you're applying for. So if you're applying for just a barista position, not a supervisor or a trainer, and let's just say you only have experience as a cashier at Walmart, let's just say. While you're in the interview with the hiring manager, even though your Walmart experience is not coffee related or barista related, those things, those skills that you've built up at Walmart can be transferred to Starbucks or whatever coffee shop you're applying for very easily. Speak to the fact that you can multitask in a fast-paced environment, that you have amazing attention to detail, that you can collaborate with other team members in a high-intensity environment. Speak to things like that. If you already have barista experience coming in, babe, I don't need to coach you. You already know what to say. You got this. I'm not worried about you. One thing I want to stress though is don't be cocky. Just because you have prior work experience doesn't mean that you're going to make the most amazing barista ever the second you come onto the crew. Don't sound like that. Show some humility and show that despite your experience that you still have a lot to learn and you're willing to learn. Be confident in the skills and the experience that you do have while also acknowledging that you have a lot more to learn. Because if there's one thing hiring managers don't want to see is that you're a know-it-all. Nobody wants to work with a know-it-all. After I had my interview and everything went well, I found out within 48 hours that I got the job. There are some cafes that I've been hired at on the spot, but this second cafe, the second Starbucks store that I worked at, was a little bit different. I didn't find out that I got hired until 48 hours after the fact. So if that's you and you don't get hired on the spot, that doesn't mean that you're not getting hired at all. So don't freak out. After your interview, I would give it about 48 to 72 hours to follow up. Don't do it right away because you don't want to seem desperate, but don't wait too long so that you seem uninterested. There's a sweet spot, and that's where that 48 to 72 hours kind of comes in at. This one does not need to be in person if you don't want to. If you live right around the corner from this coffee shop and it's easier for you to just walk in and follow up in person, by all means. Again, it'll never reflect poorly on you, but at this stage in the game, if you feel more comfortable just calling and following up on your interview, then that's perfectly acceptable. Number one, wait about 48 to 72 hours to follow up. And number two, don't follow up at the end of the week. So for example, if your interview was, let's say, on a Wednesday, don't follow up on Friday. Wait until the next week, the beginning of the next week. Because let's be honest, as human beings on Thursdays and Fridays, we're really not focused on the job. Maybe exposing myself here, but most of us as human beings, we're focused on the weekend, right? So don't follow up and get lost in the shuffle of things on Friday. Wait until the beginning of the week on a Monday or a Tuesday to follow up so that you are fresh on the hiring manager's mind and not getting lost in the other 1,000 things they need to do before the weekend. That's not just coffee shops, that's anywhere, really. When you follow up, you might be invited back in for a secondary interview with somebody else, either the actual store manager or a district manager, someone like that. You may also just be invited back in for them to formally give you the job offer in person. The last thing that might happen when you follow up is they may inform you that they're moving forward with other applicants, and that is totally fine. Don't freak out, don't stress out, just repeat the steps from before at a different coffee shop. And chances are, from my own personal experience and from everyone else's experience, it's not gonna take you very long. After you get hired, all of the fun stuff starts. The first day, the enrolling in benefits, looking at your stock options, getting your partner numbers activated, that's when the good starts. Which again, if you guys are interested in me doing a full dedicated video on first day things to know, first week things to know, just general like getting ready for your barista position to start things, let me know. You're gonna do great. Happy interviewing, and if you have any additional questions, drop them below. I got you guys. We got this. Okay, love you. I'll see you guys next time.